we must talk about addiction. And many of you guys might not even identify with that word. It has such a density to it. But if there's anything in your life right now that you can think of that you can't say no to, then that thing has power over you. And these energies of addiction in our lives are really pushing us down. They're really keeping us from evolving, both as an individual. They're keeping you from evolving. They're keeping you from raising your consciousness and living the life from your truest source. And as a collective, they're keeping us from evolving as a species. So let's talk about today how we can take these same energies and alchemize them into something that is a beautiful expression of our lives. Hello, I'm Trini if you guys don't already know me, and welcome to this space where we talk about raising our consciousness and being human and just living our best life possible. So welcome. Today I don't have my super pro camera charged, so this is the video that we'll have to do. I have my microphone here on this little chair that used to be my husband's when he was little, and now my child is using it, which is super cute. I don't know why I told you all that, but let's get to it. Let's talk about addiction, because I'm super excited about something that I learned about these energies of addiction, why they happen in our lives, and what we can do to actually use these same energies and transmute them into something that makes our life beautiful. This talk is inspired by Richard Rudd's 56 Gene Keys. So if you don't know human design, if you don't know Gene Keys, I'm an HT specialist. I definitely recommend that you check human design out because it is an amazing self-empowerment tool, but you don't have to know HT to follow along in this video. It's time for you and me to lift up into the surface these energies of addiction. It's time that we look at it in the face. It's time that we realize that we're reaching for our phones too many times during the day. It's time that we realize that we open up the fridge or we crave certain food because we're trying to hide what we really feel and we're uncomfortable with just being. It's time that we realize that, and it's time that we feel ready to transmute it. Really, you guys. Like, this is a time in humanity where we must start lifting up these energies and really realizing that we are capable of more and that we are capable of a life that is more meaningful than this. So the way that this video is going to go is I'm going to tell you a few things that I've learned recently about addiction that have blown my mind. I'm going to tell you how this energy is actually super responsible for keeping us low in our lives. But then we're going to turn it around, and I'm doing a lot of hand motions today. Then we're going to turn it around and we're going to talk about how this energy that is actually us trying to be distracted and us wanting to experience things through the five senses, how do we take it and actually transform it into the beautiful experience of being human? So this is one of the most interesting things I've read and found out in the past month, is that Richard Rudd explains in his book Gene Keys that there are certain codons in our DNA responsible for certain things. There's a specific codon that helps us when we come into this world as a spiritual being that is now in this human body, ready to experience all these things. There's a specific codon that helps us forget who we truly are, because it's necessary. We can't come into this world and right away remember that we're this spiritual being having this earthly experience, because then we wouldn't be interested in any of the mundane things. So we have to forget. Now, there's another codon, the 56th gene key, which is responsible for maintaining an illusion of individuality in our lives. So in other words, this specific DNA part is responsible for helping us to feel things with our different senses, like touching and smelling things and seeing things with our eyes and having all these experiences. And that, what it causes in our lives is that it reaffirms to us that we are different than the other. because my life is so different. My experiences are different. The way I see the world is different, that I must be different from you. So feeling this individuality and getting distracted by things in the outside world is just part of being human. It's a normal part of being human. But just like everything and all of the energies that I've been exploring in this channel and that I will keep on exploring, there is this low vibe manifestation of these energies. There is this low expression that happens when we get too distracted with these things, and that ends up not being beneficial for our lives, which is the place where most of humanity is right now. It's like a low expression of this genetic energy. With everything, there's this low expression, and that same energy can be transmuted into a high expression, and that's what I'm going to help you do in this video. So basically, the low expression of this energy is distraction. When we become so distracted with everything in our outside world that we forget to live. All of us that are in a spiritual path, that are in the path of spiritual awakening, we are realizing how addicted, how attached we are to the things in our external world, and it's starting to become uncomfortable. So if that's the case for you, this is a good sign, because it's this low frequency energy coming to the surface of your life. Why? Not so that you can feel so bad about yourself and terrible about yourself and feel like you're the worst person in the world and you must be, very, very low vibe. It's so that you can look at it and just by being aware of it, transmute it. So when I was thinking about this, the first thing that came to mind is the typical example of like being on the go outside and then having to wait for some reason. Like say you get to a doctor's appointment and you have to wait, and sitting down, and then the first thing is reaching for your phone, right? Or you're in these COVID times, maybe you get to the supermarket, at least how it is here in Chile still. There's lines because you have to have permits to go out of your house and whatever. And then, you're in the line and the first thing you want to do is occupy yourself, is distract yourself. We have become so uncomfortable with just being. And when I think of the why behind that, what comes to mind for me is because whenever you just be, you start feeling your emotions. You start feeling some uncomfortable things that we've been taught through conditioning in our lives to cover up. We've been taught that when we are feeling super dense emotions, say you break up with your boyfriend, through the media, what are we taught? That, you call your friends, you get into bed and you watch a movie, you distract yourself, and you get a bucket of ice cream, you distract yourself. So it's distraction, and it causes us to forget to tend to our actual real lives. Here's a quote from Richard Rudd's book, which I found incredible. As long as we are overstimulated through our senses, you do not have to feel your own discomfort. Also thinking about it, I think that's why so many people struggle with meditation. So many people want to meditate and then maybe they start meditating, but it's so hard to sit on the pillow and to do nothing because we are literally not accustomed to that feeling of just coming in touch with everything that happens within and just being able to sit with it. One other thing that came to mind that I learned about recently that really shined a light for me on television and Netflix, which I was already kind of detaching from, but I realized that when I'm in a darker emotional space where I'm feeling more fatigued with my disease, I tend to just when the day ends and I put my child to bed, I tend to just want to go and lay down and watch a show. And something that I learned that really, really clicked for me is that we end up living our lives vicariously, I think that's how you say it, through the characters in these stories. And it really hit me holy crap, my life feels so uncomfortable right now, maybe feels so dull right now, maybe feels so nothing is happening. I'm stuck at home with this COVID lockdown that I feel at the end of my day, I have to go turn on the TV so that I can feel I'm living a life that is more interesting. How effed up is that? Okay, so we've talked about all of these things that happen when we distract ourselves. We're at a point where we're distracting ourselves to the point of not living our lives. And the effect of this is the opposite of evolution. In order to grow as a human being, in order to come here and live out your purpose, whatever that may be for you, you must live your life. You must be present for your life, because it's in those moments where you're present and you can feel what you are feeling in the moment. You can feel what's going on in your life, that you have an opportunity to do something with that and transmute it and grow. And if you're always distracting yourself with whatever is around you, whether that be work, whether that be your friends, whether that be technology, whatever it is that's distracting you, then you're actually not growing at all. You're actually like at a standstill as a human being, which just thinking about it is insane for me. So if we go back and we think, okay, well, it was part of the human evolution. It was part of our, of our existence to have these senses and to be able to be distracted through our senses in a beautiful way, because that allows us to experience this 3D reality. But like everything else human, we've taken it to an extreme, and we're living that low version of it. So realizing this addiction is the first step. This addiction to movement, this addiction to distraction, this way of being that is very little about being and a lot about doing. That is the first step. So if this first part of the video caused you to realize that, then that is the first step. How do we move then from this distraction-filled life to something better? So for the second part of the video, I want to use food as an example, like maybe being addicted to sugar. So we might feel like if you then realize, you know what, I'm using sugar as a cover-up, or I'm using whatever you're using, drugs, alcohol, sex, as a distraction, okay? You might say, well, then the answer is to realize that and then to stop doing that, right? But here's the thing, and I think a lot of you guys are going to relate to this. When we stop ourselves from something, that can also become an addiction. If you say, you know what, I'm using food in my life in a terrible way, I'm using sugar, and I'm eating all these things that don't feel good to my soul anymore, like pizza and fast food and all this stuff, so I'm not going to do it anymore. And you become healthy and you start juicing, and all of a sudden you can get to this place where you've gone from here to here, from this extreme to this extreme, and the limiting yourself is also becoming an addiction. So the answer to these distractions lies somewhere in the middle. The answer lies in balance. So in my own health journey with chronic fatigue syndrome, I went in the beginning, when I was blaming everything on nutrition, I went from eating everything to eating almost nothing. There was literally a point where I was prohibiting myself from eating rice, sugar, gluten, dairy, nuts, any processed food, anything bought in a supermarket. And hey, there's a lot of bad things in a lot of the things that I just mentioned, but there was a worse feeling that came from me, not being able to eat anything. I'm so happy because this part is just, when I learned about this, it just made so much sense to me, and I know it's going to be the same for you. How do you know when to indulge? How do you know when to distract yourself with something? So the key is to learn the difference between what enriches your spirit and what saps it. Think about that. What enriches the human spirit and what saps it? So a good example might be chocolate cake, right? Or some kind of cake. Everybody loves some kind of cake. Say that you go somewhere, maybe it's your friend's birthday and there's chocolate cake and you're having so much fun and you really feel like having it, and maybe you haven't had sugar for 3 months because you've been taking care of yourself and you really feel like having it, and something in your mind is no, but you're not allowed to have sugar and that's bad for your body and it's a neurotoxin. But then you say, wait, is this going to enrich my spirit? And you just feel like you're in this place where you're enjoying yourself, and that experience of eating that cake would really just be something that's good for your soul, something expansive. And so you eat the cake. Say that the next day, Maybe you slept over at your friend's house and there's some cake left over, and you wake up in the morning for breakfast and maybe you're feeling a little bit heavy because you ate a lot the day before, and you see the cake and your mind's like, go get that cake, right? That's how addiction works. It's like, you had some yesterday, let's have some more today. And that's when you ask yourself the question, is this cake in this particular situation going to enrich my spirit? And probably the answer in that case is going to be no. The only reason you'd indulge in it is because of an addiction, is because of a pattern, is because of maybe you're feeling uncomfortable because of what you ate the day before and you want to distract yourself from that. And it's ironic, but eating some more cake would actually distract yourself from that uncomfort. Even though you would feel more uncomfortable afterwards, it would offer you a distraction. And so that's the moment you practice self-discipline. That's the moment you take care of yourself. But it's not about labels, and it's not about saying this is right or this is wrong or I'm never going to do this again. It's about understanding how the human spirit works and being in a relationship with it that is healthy. I love how Richard Rudd puts it, because he talks about this balance between wildness and responsibility. Because if we're too wild and we're always just like whatever, then we're not going to be enjoying life, right? Because we're going to be indulging all the time. We're probably not going to be healthy. We're probably not going to feel healthy, and we're not going to be present for our lives. But also, if we go to the other extreme of just being like super responsible all the time, then we're voiding ourselves of life as well. So what is the balance between wildness and responsibility, where sometimes you can go here and just be super wild, but then know when to stop, and then sometimes you can be here because you want to take care of yourself. So the key to transmuting the addiction energies or the distraction energies, elevating your consciousness through them, is to understand that enjoyment of life always comes from the inside. And that anything external to you, anything that you can consume through your senses, is going to be an addition, but is never going to replace your well-being from the inside. And so what ends up happening is that you can indulge in all these different things. You're probably going to do it consciously in lesser amounts. You're going to be taking care of yourself, and you're going to have this balance with your well-being. And every single situation that you do decide to indulge in something, that you do decide to just consciously get distracted, it's just going to be a cherry on top of the cake, because inside you're going to be feeling balanced, and you will be forced by your own choice of responsibility and your own choice of letting go to this meaningless life filled with addiction and distraction. You will be forced to look inside of yourself for those feelings of fulfillment that you've been conditioned to look outside of yourself for throughout your life, that we've all been conditioned to look for outside of yourself. For example, through advertisement, right? Buy this toothpaste, it will make you happy. Or buy this soft drink, it will bring love to your life. And so it takes this level of awakening, it takes this level of consciousness to be like, you know what? I've been trying this distraction thing and it actually feels terrible. It actually makes me realize that I need to go inwards instead and find that feeling of fulfillment inside, because I'm not going to find it outside. What it will also do for you, this transmuting of the energies, is going to teach you how to meditate. It's going to teach you how to meditate, not in this way where you're just sitting down and, closing your eyes. It's going to teach you to meditate through life. It's going to teach you to attain a meditative state, because when you are not distracted, then that means you're centered and you are always in contact with your higher self and inner being when you're centered. Going through life in this way, and I have in no way attained this 100%, but I'm in this process, right? We're all in this process of learning how to do these things. And so when you go through life and you are centered and you're feeling your life, then that means that you are present for every single moment, and every single experience that you have is going to be so much more meaningful because you're there to witness it. A lot of the experiences that we live when we are in this frequency of distraction we end up not even remembering, we end up not even feeling, we end up just clinging to the labels of what that experience was, but we don't take it in as this real experience that can actually teach us things. But when we're present for our lives, even the most simple little daily experiences can become really blissful, really beautiful, because we're there to take it all in. So for me, this has definitely been a lesson that I've been learning in the past years with my chronic disease, because when you are chronically ill, and a lot of the times you don't have the ability or the choice to distract yourself. It's crazy, because one of the hardest things about being chronically ill, or about my own chronic fatigue syndrome experience, is that it's just so uncomfortable to be with yourself and to just be in a life where nothing is happening. And I'm kind of laughing right now because I hadn't made this connection before recording this video, and that's why I love making this video so much, because it is very much a part of my own process. It's also for you guys, but it's very much for me. Being ill in the way of fatigue, that you can't really do things, it's actually a life without distractions, forced. So you don't have to wait until you have to be forced to be without distractions. So I want to end this video by inviting you to take a look at your own life right now and to think about the things, make a list of the things that might be sapping out the energy in your life, that might be, not nurturing your soul. And remember, it doesn't have to be like black or white. It's not about, I need to get rid of my phone forever. Think about the things that you're doing, or that you're possibly doing, to maybe cover the uncomfortableness. What are the things that you reach for very automatically in times when you were needing a distraction? And what are the things that you're needing a distraction from? And after watching this video, can you make a conscious effort to, first of all, just observe that need to be distracted, that need for endless movement in your life? And just this awareness and just this observation is going to do so much for you. A lot of the times that's all we need to transmute, because you observe and you say, well, yeah, that's not the life I want to live. But you can also take it further and ask yourself, can I, in those moments where I'm lucky enough, where I'm aware enough to realize that I'm distracting myself and that I'm going again into this kind of dense frequency that is not helping me evolve, can I instead not reach for that thing, and instead maybe sit quietly and observe whatever is uncomfortable for me, and just be curious about what can come out from that? And then at the same time, can I keep in mind this question? This question is changing my life. In a moment by moment basis, when you're wanting to indulge in things and you're just like unsure about whether to be wild or whether to be responsible, can you ask yourself in that moment, is this going to nurture my soul? Is this going to be expansive for my soul? And can you base your decision off of that? If you liked this video, if this was helpful for your journey, I'm so glad. Thank you so much for tuning into my frequency. Give the video a like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications, and all that jazz. I'll see you next time.